Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you very much, Laurent, for your kind words. Well, for those, as Laurent said, those who had a hard night, you can continue sleeping. Just before you leave the session, just take the hard copy of the white paper. There are some copies here, and everything what I will present you is in the paper. So you can continue resting or sleeping, and you can read the document home. So basically, this document is what we call the white paper. So it's, let's say, the visible tip of the iceberg after 9 months of quite intense discussions between the ETPN, the members of ETPN, the European Commission, FPR, the European Trade Union for Pharmaceutical Companies, CEA, the Union of Imaging Companies, and some member states. And I will try to, within the next 15 minutes, try to introduce or to present the main point, the main conclusions of this white paper. So basically, I'm just starting my presentation with just a reminder about what's happened recently in the US and some of the deals between the big pharmas and innovative SMEs in the US. So, of course, so Abraxis Neil is not here anymore, I think, but Abraxis looked like an old story, but it was like a pioneer in this area. And I'm sorry, I was using this. Okay, so Abraxis is already belong to the past, I mean, in terms of deal, but now Biotherapeutics has signed 3 major deals with large companies, and CITIMMUNE the same with AstraZeneca. So just my question is, why did it happen in the US? Should it happen in Europe as well? And so this is why we wanted to give answers to this question, that we have developed the action plan presented in the white paper. So basically, we want to focus the action of ETPN in the next 7 years under H 2020 on translation. Well, translation is some kind of buzzword, but our understanding of translation means we want, let's say, to promote the development of projects from preclinical proof of concept, POC means proof of concept, to the late preclinical developments, so it means preclinical development, validation and manufacturing, and also to the phase 1 and 2A for the drugs. Of course, for medical devices with nano inside, the cycle is slightly different, but basically the concept is the same. We want to increase the flow of projects or products leaving the labs or the spin-offs and then going through SMEs or large companies to the clinical trials and then to the market. And for those who are familiar with the technology readiness level, we want to focus our attention between TRL 3.4 until TRL 6.7. And just to remind you that the TRLs will be used by the European Commission in the next framework program, just to differentiate the different funding programs that they will propose to the community. And the ETPN is so proposing, let's say, like a comprehensive initiative, and we call it the Translation Hub. Of course, in my talk I will focus very often on SMEs, because if you look to where innovation takes place in nanomedicine, in Europe at the moment, it mostly takes place in spin-offs or SMEs, and then later on it's transferred or taken over by large companies when these large companies should, let's say, invest, especially for the late clinical trials. And so under this big translation hub, there are some subunits or sub-projects, if I say so. First one, and I will describe one after the other, so the EUNCA, the GMP manufacturing pilot lines, the coordination with the clinical organizations, the funding of SMEs, and also the key role of the Translation Advisory Board. So what is the Translation Advisory Board? So this group has been established under the leadership of Laurent, so Laurent Lévy and Mike Heaton. So for those who know Mike, well, Mike was unable to attend this conference because, you know, June is the fishing season in Scotland, so Mike couldn't really make it, and but he is very much involved into the into fixing this Translation Advisory Board, and this board is made of people, of several experts coming from industry mostly, and people who have already expertise in developing medical nanomaterials or nanomade medical devices. So just to help any project leader wanted to bring his proof of concept towards clinical trials and towards the market. And but probably Laurent will tell you more about the Translation Advisory Board later on. But I consider the Translation Advisory Board, TAB in short, as the cornerstone of the entire action plan prepared by ETPN under Horizon 2020. Then let's go to the EUNCA. Scott and his team yesterday, maybe Jennifer is still here, and Stephen. Scott presented yesterday, let's say, the fantastic work they have implemented for 10 years now in their lab, just to help any medical nanomaterial developer to fully characterize physically, chemically, and biologically its material, so that they can go further into the regulatory approval pathway and then to the clinical trials. And after, let's say, several meetings with our American partners, then we decided to establish like a mirror organization to US and CL into Europe for several reasons. And one of the reasons is that we realized that some European SMEs didn't want to send their samples of medical nanomaterials to the US, let's say, because they would have preferred to have it to keep it in Europe and so on. So, let's say, nowhere decision has been taken to initiate a European-based NCL, and in close relationship with the American NCL, and the different phases of implementation of this project are fully detailed in the white paper report. And so this EUNCL will apply as an I-cube in the first call, because this project has been shortlisted by the European Commission for the first calls for in infrastructure, so early next year. And we have already had the first meeting with the S3, which is, let's say, the forum of the member states, European member states, who decide and who finance the large-scale European infrastructures, like, I don't know, the cyclotrons, the space labs, and so on, but also the infrastructures in the field of, let's say, bioinformatics and so on. So we already had the first meeting with them to start, let's say, this application process. Then the next step is once, and there again we've learned a lot from our American friends in Frederick, we've learned that full characterization is just, into brackets, just the first step. But once your product is fully characterized, once it is approved for clinical trials, then you have to go to clinical trials. And in most labs, people are able to produce with great efforts, let's say, milligrams of their medical nanomaterials. And of course, you need more often, let's say, maybe kilograms or several tens of kilograms for your first phase 1 trial. And so then you need to scale up your process from the lab scale process to the industrial process, and also to transfer it into a GMP environment. And at the moment, we have identified only a very, very few contract manufacturing organizations with experience in scaling up manufacturing process with medical nanomaterials. So basically, these CMOs are not ready to invest, let's say, in scaling up the process, because it's an expensive process. And so we want to under the pilot lines instrument, the new instrument proposed by the European Commission, under the kits, we want to develop, let's say, some pilot lines just to help there again the nanomaterials developers to produce in a GMP environment, in an industrial process, the necessary quantity of their materials for clinical trials. And then the third pillar of the translation hub is about funding. As mentioned already, most of the current innovation in nanomedicine in Europe takes place in spin-offs or SMEs, and these SMEs usually face significant problem in funding. Usually funding, when you conduct surveys about, let's say, the success factors and the difficulties these SMEs encounter, funding is the main bottleneck for these SMEs. So the European Commission has decided to develop a new funding instrument, which is, we call it SBIR-like, because it is greatly inspired from the American, the NIH SBIR or STTR funding. And basically, this funding is quite unusual for the European companies, because this funding goes directly to one company, so you don't have this rule of, let's say, 3 partners from 3 different countries. So this funding goes to one SME, and in 2 phases. The first phase, is just to do some preliminary proof of concept, and then if it is approved, then you go for, let's say, a much higher amount. So these are the American figures, but the figures to be provided by the European SME funding system are not fixed at the moment. And so this should help probably very significantly, let's say, the SMEs for developing their proof of concepts. And what is the expected impacts? What are the impacts of this translation hub and all the associated initiatives? First, we have listed under the Nanomed 2020, I think it's here, and maybe Olivier will present you this European program ETPN is responsible for. And so we have listed more than 500 SMEs in Europe who develop either totally or partly nanomedicine or nanotech-related products for healthcare. So this is a huge pool, let's say, for jobs, wealth, and value in Europe. And also, if you look to the ongoing trials or the ongoing projects under development in public or private labs, I think there are approximately 250 products in the pipeline. So it means that now, of course, with some time delay with the USA, now we are entering the time of translation in Europe with products after maybe 10 or 15 years of investment in basic research. Products now are slowly entering into the regulatory approval pathway and then later on into clinical trials. And of course, these refer, let's say, to the economic impact, which is especially a crucial aspect in considering the current economic situation in Europe, but also, of course, it will have a huge societal impact for delivering better or more targeted healthcare. And our main driver at ETPN and for the associate members of ETPN is just to support, let's say, the emergence of a profitable European nanomedicine sector, so increasing jobs, value, and innovative products and innovative healthcare. And so for doing so, we need to have a drastic optimization of the value chain and to reduce the risk associated with, like always, and like for any new drug or any new device, try to reduce the risk associated with innovation so that investors, VCs, large companies, then can invest into the later stages of development of this product. And all in all, we want to accelerate the time to market for Nanomed products. And so this is just a summary. So basically, we want to let's say, to help project leaders, let's say, from the preclinical proof of concept and through all this entire chain under the supervision of the Translation Advisory Board, then to bring products on the market. And just to remind you that the next step, so now I'm using this slide since the beginning of this year, and now we are approximately here, and so the next step is we wait for for the first calls to be published under Horizon 2020, so early next year, we hope so. And then after, let's say, the submission, evaluation, and negotiation, we hope to start most of this project by end of next year. And so there again, I'm asking the questions, why did these big deals happen in the US? Will the similar deals happen in Europe tomorrow or the day after tomorrow? Basically, it relies on us, and it relies also on our partners. So if you want to know more, as I mentioned already, we have hard copies of the white paper, but you can download this white paper on the ETPN website. It's in the public part of the website. It's free. And I would recommend you to read this booklet, because I think it's a very good summary of, let's say, just describing the future development of nanomedicine in Europe for the next 7 years. And just before concluding my presentation, Mr. Chairman, I just want to inform everyone, because everyone can apply for the next Nanomedicine Awards. So ETPN, thanks to our partner Nanobiotix, which is a key member, so the company led by Laurent. So thanks to Nanobiotix and EBD Group, who is the organizer of the Bio-Europe conference, for the first time we will offer Nanomedicine Awards, and these awards will be presented at the Bio-Europe conference next November in Vienna, Austria. And so anyone, whether you are public, private, whatever the field of nanomedicine you are working on, you can apply on this website, Nanomedicine Awards. And then the panel is already ready, so we are just waiting for your submissions, and then we warmly invite you to attend the Bio-Europe conference with the nanomedicine session organized by ETPN, so that you can discover the winner of the winners of the award. And with that, this is just the website of the ETPN. And my last word, if you allow me, Mr. Chairman, the last word is that all the work which has been done by ETPN has been done by you and for you. So if you want to be part of the game, I mean, for the next 7 years, I mean, whether you are public organization, public lab, or spin-offs, or SMEs, or even large groups, because we also have large groups working together with SMEs within ETPN. So you can join ETPN, and if you want to know more about ETPN, is Olivier in the room? Can I say? Yes, please stand up, Olivier. Olivier is a member of the General Secretary of ETPN. So if you have questions, and you have many ETPN members here, if you have questions, we will be delighted. Thank you very much for your attention, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.